because it's neurologically threatening. So your brain registers uncertainty as a threat, and it can't differentiate between there's a tiger charging me or I got an email saying that we're going to have a reorg. Right, your brain can't tell the difference. And what happens is people try to rush from the discomfort, like you said, but what ends up happening unintentionally is that running away from it magnifies it. So you try not to feel stressed, you feel more stressed. You try not to feel sad, you feel more sadness. And by resisting it, we're actually intensifying not only the emotion, but the duration with which we feel it. So I think what's hard for a lot of people is sitting in the suck, like letting yourself feel sad and angry and upset and disappointed. There is nothing wrong with feeling those emotions. You have to feel them. They're just like happiness. They're just like any emotion. It's not a constant state. And intense emotional reactions last 90 seconds. After that, we're feeding them with our thoughts.
Well, welcome everybody back to the Sean Trey Show. I have a really awesome return guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
I'm Ann Grady. I'm an author. I'm a professional speaker and trainer and country liver. A donkey mom.
Donkey mom, which is
Donkey
literally
mom.
the coolest thing I've ever heard
I
of.
have two actual kids, but they're grown up. So now I'm a donkey and cow mom.
That's awesome. What do your donkeys teach you every day? Let's go a little bit off script. What are some of the lessons you've learned from your donkeys and cows?
Well, the donkeys both have special needs. They were adopted. And,
Oh,
my story, my son has some severe special needs. And so I feel like things that require extra attention and care, whether it's my dog or my donkeys, they're attracted to me. So they teach me patience and humility, right? There's
yeah.
nothing that makes you more humble than shoveling donkey poop. It's just one of the best things in the world, and it keeps you humble.
My daughter popped in the room for those of you who are listening. I'm trying to teach her how to interact with the digital world without becoming a zombie. And it's not going great. Like, it's not going
Welcome
great.
to parenthood in
Right.
21st century.
Right. We got her a phone just to create stuff because she's got a YouTube channel. And I said, you can film stuff, you can take pictures, you can document. None of that happened. None of it
TikTok,
happened.
Instagram, Facebook, those all happen.
Luckily, we didn't let her anywhere near TikTok or Instagram, but YouTube is just as crazy. And
Yes.
so it was just constant that. And so finally, tonight, I looked at my wife and I was like, we set the standards and she couldn't meet them. And she couldn't rise up to the level. I mean, she's only 10, but I set the standard. I said, you got to be reading books. We got to be doing these things. And that wasn't happening. So I said, the phone's going away. The phone's going to go away and you can have it out when we have a focused activity. Like you're making a sewing that you're making something with your sewing teacher and you want to film that, you can get the phone out. But other than that, we've got books, we've got things, and you've got family and you can watch movies and other stuff. And she was not happy. And she got
So
upset.
here's what's interesting, Sean.
Talk to me.
Well, we're talking about adaptability, right? Like the skill of
Yeah.
adaptability. And what you did without realizing it, I think, was teach her how to normalize discomfort, right? You
Yeah.
taught her when kids get upset and angry as parents, we try to soothe them and calm them. And sometimes if the anger and tantrum is loud enough, we give into them. But one
Yeah.
of the skills of adaptability is learning to say it's okay to be frustrated and angry and have big feelings. And it's okay to be
Mhm.
mad that you can't have your phone right now. That's totally
Yeah.
normal.
Right. And when
And
she
sit
came
in it.
in, yeah, exactly. And she came in and she was sad. And I was like, it's okay. We all have bad days. But it doesn't, she came in and she was looking and I said, I love you. And she made eye contact with where the phone's at. And I was like, but you're not getting it. Like, it's not coming back because we have to learn different things. But I want to ask you about adversity too, because why do some people grow through adversity while others get stuck in it?
Well, before I answer that, I will say a lot of people ask me about my son because, my story of resilience really stems from raising a child with intense mental illness and autism and developmental delays. And when your daughter came in and asked for the phone and you said no, in that scenario in our house, it would have turned into physical violence. We would have
Wow.
been attacked physically, and it would have lasted for hours. And so that
Mm,
tantrum would have gone from I'm angry, I'm sad, to police being called and potentially going to an ER because there's injuries, and my son would hurt himself. So when we talk about adaptability and why some people are adaptable and other people aren't, and why some have an easier time, I think it's important to understand that everybody's situation is different. So what applies to for one person might not work for somebody else. And that's why these
mm,
skills are very personalized and why I try to share so many of them. But I think some people grow through it, others get stuck in it, and it's a couple of reasons. One, it's our genetics, right? Some people are more emotionally reactive. They have different levels of dopamine and serotonin, and they have um, genetics make up some of our emotional reactivity and our adaptability. You
mm,
also have upbringing, childhood upbringing. If you've had a traumatic childhood with lots of adverse experiences, that impacts your ability to adapt. Your nervous system is often kind of trapped in this fight or flight state.
mhm,
But as we grow up, the skill is a lot of it is determined by our locus of control. So, your
mm,
locus of control is the degree to which you feel you have control of your life. So, an external locus of control is very much it's not my fault if I had a different child, spouse, job, boss, benefits, salary, then I'd be okay. It's
mm.
externally everything else is determining your happiness and your anxiety and your adaptability. An internal locus of control is okay, here's the situation, what do I have control over now? And if somebody has an external locus of control, there's usually two forms of it. One is blame. It's other people's fault or other
Mhm,
circumstances. It's because of those. Or shame, which is I don't deserve any better. This is just who I am. This is just what I deserve. And both are different sides of the same powerless coin.
mm,
And what happens is the more often you feel helpless, like there's nothing I can do, this is just the situation I'm in, the more anxiety related pathways in your brain fire. And
mhm.
because of neuroplasticity, the more often those fire, the easier it is for that to become your default. Right. So learned helplessness, this belief that nothing I do matters, is one of the core skills that drives whether you can adapt to change or get buried in it.
We'll be cruising along, and a storm sets in life, you know? And the one thing that I've grown to realize is that no matter what you do, there will always be storms. And the simple magic is how you respond to them, you know? And I want to ask you this though, because like imagine a storm comes along and you're standing in the desert, right? One person might decide, I'm going to be tough and I'm just going to stand here in the rain. Another person's like, I'm going to go head into that cave and get out of the rain and then get back up after, you know? There's this idea that being resilient means that you're just like weathering it all and not just simply enduring something difficult. But I studied judo, and when you get thrown on the ground, you get thrown on the ground and it hurts. And it doesn't mean there's no halfway getting, you get thrown and you get back up, you know. But I want to ask you the difference. What's the difference between being resilient and simply enduring something difficult?
I think that's such a good question because we've grown up to equate achievement and strength with success.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, me included, for a long time thought if I just fight harder, if
Yeah.
I
Right.
just endure more, if I just can stand in the rain and the storm and endure all of it, that makes me resilient. That's not resilience. That's exhaustion. That's working harder, not smarter. Resilience is you go in the cave, you get out of the storm, you take a nap, you rest, you reset, and then you're stronger for the next storm and you figure out, what do I
Yes.
need to build before the next storm so that I can protect myself? And maybe it's go back to the same cave, right? But the real resilience isn't what you do in the middle of the storm. It's what you do to prepare for the next one and what you learned from the last one. So when you're in it, when you're in the middle of discomfort and, just trauma or tragedy, no matter, whether it's I didn't get the job I wanted or I lost someone I loved tragically, it doesn't matter what spectrum it's in. Resilience isn't happening in that moment. Resilience is looking back with perspective and making meaning of it and saying,
Mm,
okay, here's how I use this pain to give me purpose. Here's how I use this adversity to make me stronger. Here's what I learned so that I can change for next time to be more prepared for the storm. That's resilience.
we have a couple different reactions that are very common. Uh, One of the things that I see, people go into fight or flight, they just shut down. And like, it's not just like, where's the cave? It's like, let's run away. And the problem is the running away um, doesn't make the storm go away. And often, like you're running away at the storm, you're going to be in that storm even longer. But one of the things that I found is that there was a story I heard about cows, and you got to tell me if this is true. They turn into the storm, they face the storm because I don't even know. I gotta ask some more ranchers if that's true. But like, if you face the storm instead of turn away from it, you're not gonna get broadsided by it. It's gonna
Yeah.
come and go past you. You're moving toward it. And I think that's one of the best things I've ever heard is like, if you run from a storm, if you turn away from a storm, it can catch up on you. But if you maybe you need to take a second, but then face it, uh, you get to be into a better place. But like, one of the challenges with that is that the storm is, we're kind of talking about storms like it's a bad thing, but like, honestly, a storm, I think, is the best example of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen in a storm. But why are humans so uncomfortable with uncertainty, even when uncertainty is a normal part of life?
Because it's neurologically threatening.
Mm.
So your brain registers uncertainty as a threat and it can't differentiate between there's a tiger charging me or I got an email saying that my allergies are horrible today. Or
You're
I got
fine.
an email saying we're going to have a reorg, right? Your brain can't tell the difference. And what happens is people try to rush from the discomfort, like you said, but what ends up happening unintentionally is that running away from it magnifies it.
Hmm.
So you try not to feel stressed, you feel more stressed. You try not to feel sad, you feel more sadness. And by resisting it, we're actually intensifying not only the emotion, but the duration with which we feel it. So I think what's hard for a lot of people is sitting in the suck, like letting
Ah,
yourself feel sad and angry and upset and disappointed. There is nothing wrong with feeling those emotions. You have to feel them. They're just like happiness. They're just like any emotion. It's not a constant state. And intense emotional reactions last 90 seconds.
mm,
After that, we're feeding them with our thoughts. So people don't like to sit in that discomfort, but that's what resilience is. It's learning to sit in it rather than run away from it. But that doesn't mean you process it and make meaning immediately. Like, I mean, with Evan, it took me 10 years to be able to have some perspective to learn a lesson from it. So
mm.
it's not like you go through hell and back and then 24 hours later you're enlightened with this lesson on becoming adaptable and resilient. It takes time to go through it, to process it. And, in my case, it will always be because, mental illness and autism and developmental delays don't go away, right? So I'm kind of stuck in that storm. And a lot of people are. Got, if you're a caregiver or you've got an illness or you've lost someone you care about, right? It's not like it just goes away and then you extract this lesson. You need some perspective. And it's the gift of giving yourself the permission to be human and giving yourself grace and to know that you're doing the best you can. I think what happens with us is some weeks we have it all together, right? We're caught up on our inbox and we feel like we've
Mhm.
met the deadline and we've been the good parent and we've been the good partner. And other weeks it's like a struggle to feel like you can do any of it well. And it doesn't mean you failed, it means you're human. We have varying capacity at any given time based on our rest, our physical state, our emotional state, whether we've eaten well, how much exercise we've gotten. Like, and some of it is beyond our control, some of it is biology, some of it is hormones. And so I think sometimes we beat ourselves up like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do it consistently? And the truth is because your capacity changes
Yeah.
based on a million different factors. And you are doing the best you can with what you have at any given moment. And that has to be enough rather than I should be doing this, I should be doing that. It's like,
Right.
okay, that's great, but here's where you are. And you have to accept where you are before you can move forward.
I and if you're not happy there, sometimes you got to pay attention to those little things that happen that might help you make a change. I remember reading about Jordan Peele, the director. Now we say the director, not the guy from Key and Peele, but the director, because he made a shift. Now, it was 2017, and he was going up for the Emoji Movie. And, he was auditioning for it, and he got asked to do the voice for the poop emoji. And he's like, I need to take a day to consider it. But when he went back and asked about the other role, he found out like, dude, it's gone. It's someone else has it now. And like as Patrick Stewart took the poop emoji role. But that was the thing that made him go, you know what? Maybe directing is more of my path. But resilience wasn't sitting there and beating down a door and saying, I want to just keep going in this path. For him, resilience was getting back up after this thing happened and going, maybe it's time to pivot. And he pivoted straight into Get Out, Us, and Nope, three critically acclaimed movies. Sometimes your pivot is the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and I think that resilience is recognizing that and recognizing that you're ready to make a change.
Well, and it's also not being so rigid in what you wanted that you're not open to what's possible, right? So he could have
Yes.
spent years going, I wanted to be the poop emoji. Why didn't I get it? It's not fair. And he could have spiraled and gone, I'm not applying for any more roles. I didn't get the poop emoji, right? And so that's where adaptability comes in. It's the ability to shift perspectives rapidly and say, okay, I don't like this. It sucks. It's not what I wanted. What's next? What
Right.
can I control? Where do I have some power? And that doesn't mean you're not disappointed, frustrated, sad, angry, fill in the blank with the emotion, but it means given what is, what's next? And
Hmm.
that's where empowerment and agency and and adaptability start. Are you able to accept where you are so that you can move toward what's next, or are you going to allow yourself to stay a victim of your circumstances and become
Hmm.
powerless?
Right. I think that it's about making those changes, and we have to stop doing certain things. And one of the things I think we have to stop doing is letting fear make decisions for us. If we can step beyond that, but how do we do that? How do we stop fear from making those decisions for us?
Well, the reason they make the decisions for us is anytime things are uncertain or anytime you're afraid, whether it's a legitimate threat or just a story you're telling yourself about what's possible, the emotional part of your brain takes over and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain. So you're not able to regulate emotion or maintain perspective or have willpower or be pro social or have empathy or any of the innovative, creative ideas because your brain is in a state of protection. So the first thing you have to do is normalize discomfort. It's okay to be uncomfortable. right? And so, whether you're a leader leading a team or whether you're a parent leading a child, it's okay to feel angry or scared. And we rush past it so we don't have to feel it. You have to normalize that discomfort. But confidence doesn't come from believing, it comes from behaving.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like saying, well, I'm going to wait to join a gym until I get in shape.
Hmm.
That doesn't work like that. That's like saying, I'll wait till I feel ready before I make this change. You're not going to feel ready. It's like
Ever.
you have to behave your way to confidence. And that
Hmm.
means you have to put yourself in situations where you prove to yourself you are doing hard things. Your brain doesn't want confidence, it wants evidence. So
Yeah.
keep track of all the hard things you do and intentionally put yourself in situations where it's uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean it has to be like these life altering things. For example, I start out this book, Evolvability, talking about not wanting to go camping and dreading it and not like thinking I was so far from what I wanted. But what I learned from that experience is you have to put yourself in situations where you're out of your comfort zone because then your brain learns I'm capable of doing hard things.
Yes.
And every time you do hard things, whether it's, emotional or physical or mental, every time you do that, you're collecting evidence that you're capable of doing those hard things.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that. And, my mantra has become, I will figure it out.
Hmm. Yeah.
If you think about it, everyone listening right now, everyone watching, you've survived every crappy thing that's ever happened to you. You're here.
Yeah.
You can do hard things and you will figure out what's next. And if you fail, okay, so that's learning, right? Wisdom comes
Hmm.
from experience, experience comes from failure. Failure is the price of admission for growth. And your ability to adapt and grow starts with your willingness to fail and make mistakes and not do it perfectly. Because every time you do that, your brain learns, okay, I don't have to be perfect. I just have to keep going.
I don't have to be perfect. I just have to keep going. I love that. Because at the end of the day, that's the magic sauce. You don't have to be perfect. That's adaptability. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. And adapting means, well, this week was a horrible week. If I had to rate myself as a business leader, I give myself a solid 6.
And you know what?
I
Some weeks that's enough.
That's enough. And you know
Some
what?
weeks that's all you can do.
I'm proud of walking out the other side as a 6 because that means I got through the week. And that's okay. It doesn't
Yeah,
have
I
to be
think
perfect.
we judge ourselves on our accomplishments and our achievements, but think about it a different way. Your resume and your eulogy are not the same document, or at
Yeah.
least they shouldn't be, right? So sometimes you have to value change the definition of success to growth instead
Hmm.
of why is this person doing it better? Why has it come more easily for them? It's like, okay, am I a better version of me tomorrow than I was today?
Yeah.
And your success becomes your measuring stick of who you were and who you are now. And sometimes we take a step back before we can take a step forward.
Yep. I think, like we were talking about earlier, going into the cave to hide out the storm, that might feel like you are backtracking. But the reality is, that might be the best step forward you can make because if you just sit there in the storm, it's not going to help anyone. You got to get out of the storm.
Well, and then
And
by the time the storm passes, you're exhausted, you're wet, you're,
right,
beat up and bruised. So you may think I'm just so tough because I'm weathering the storm. But what you're actually doing is depleting your capacity to weather the next one.
right. You talk about adaptability though as well. Like, what does it actually look like in everyday life when someone's plans are falling apart, when the storm hits, when you're a boss and all hell is breaking loose? What does that look like?
So the reason I broke the book down into a framework with 6 pillars that spell out the word evolve is because those are the skills, those are the
Mm,
tools that you need to be adaptable. So, first, E, emotional aptitude. Can I read, recognize, and respond to emotions so that I stay in control instead of my emotions controlling me? That's number one. Two, values. Do I know what's most important? So, regardless of which way the storm blows me and carries me, I stay true to what's most important to me because your values are your compass.
Mhm.
Optimization, am I optimizing my time, energy, and attention? Am I keeping the resources that I need to stay capable of managing everything around me? Then you go to leadership. Am I bringing other people along for the ride, whether it's because I'm a titled leader, manager, or because I just want to be someone other people want to be around? Am I able to get other people along for the journey? And then it's versatility, right? How do I
Yeah.
shift the way I'm thinking? How do I adjust my mindset? How do I build capacity? And then finally, empowerment. And that goes back to that
Mm.
locus of control. Am I taking agency or am I relinquishing that control to something beyond me? Am I a victim or am I a volunteer?
That's where it's at. Are you a victim or are you a volunteer? Are you reacting to everything around you or are you creating a plan? It doesn't have to be a
But I
big
think it's
plan.
okay to react first. Like, we think
Mm,
if I have a reaction, I'm weak, right?
right?
You can train yourself to have a different reaction, but
Mm,
it's normal to have a reaction to be pissed off or angry or disappointed, right? There is nothing wrong with you for feeling those emotions. The skill is recognizing them and then deciding whether you want them to drive your behavior or whether you can create some space between the stimulus and the reaction so that you can manage your response in a way that's going to carry you forward intentionally rather than reactively. And that's a skill, it's a practice, it's not an internal gift that some of us have and some of us don't.
it's not like, hey, today you've got it down and you're good forever. It's like something you got to work, just like going to the gym. But I want to ask you that because there are still a lot of people who struggle to change, even when they know change would improve their lives. Like, why is that? And how can they start making a difference in their lives?
That's such a good question. It's because change isn't logistical, it's not knowledge based, it's emotional. Right? There's a well-known study. They had patients who had undergone coronary bypass surgery and the
Mm,
surgeon said, "Look, if you don't change your diet, exercise more, quit smoking and change your lifestyle, you're either going to be back on this operating table or you're going to die."
yep.
Now, what percentage of those patients do you think made changes long term?
Probably not enough.
10%. Think about that. Like, a doctor's like, change or die. And 90% of people are going, yeah, but there's queso, right?
Mm,
It's because change is not logistical, it's emotional.
right.
Yes, you have to have the process in place, but you have to understand that change is threatening, even if it's a good change. Getting married, having a baby, buying a new house, all of those are wonderful. They're still neurologically threatening because your brain is
Yep.
thinking about what I have to give up in order to gain something new. And almost any change, even good ones, involves some type of loss. In fact, when you go through change, it follows the same pattern as the curve for grief.
Mm,
And what we know about grief is that it's not a linear process. You don't go from denial to anger to bargaining to acceptance. You go back and forth between the stages as you're learning how to adapt. It's the same thing with change. You get angry, then you get it together, then you're disappointed, then you're excited, then you're mad. Like, it's just this emotional curve. And so that's why emotional aptitude is the first pillar, because you have to learn how to recognize and respond to those emotions so that you can be intentional, not just, react out of panic and profanity, which is what most of us kind of default to.
panic and profanity is sounds like first of all a great band name,
Band
and
name, I
secondly,
was just thinking that.
great band name. But number two, it sounds like your next book, and
Panic.
that's a book if I've ever heard one. Man, panic and
I think I want
profanity.
to name my next book The Depressed Motivational Speaker.
Oh, that's actually awesome. That's awesome. I can imagine the artwork of it as well. That's great. Well,
Oh,
I
good.
want to
You can help me
ask you.
design the cover.
I'm all for it. If you're down, let me go crazy. I'll go crazy. What role does mindset play in the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what's possible? If someone's wanting to make a change, how do they need to start talking to themselves differently and change things going on up here?
So that it's everything. There's two
Mm,
ways to shift and adapt. There's basically cognitive, which is your mindset, and there's physical, which is your nervous system. Both very, very powerful. But mindset is kind of your foundation. And that doesn't mean toxic positivity and pretending that there's not hard stuff. It doesn't mean like everything has a silver lining and everything's perfect. It's this mindset of I can do hard things. It's uncomfortable. I'll figure it out. I can get better with practice. It's this growth mindset of I prove to myself I can do hard things by doing hard things. And it's the story that we tell ourselves, that narrative. Your brain believes what you say repeatedly. You don't have to say it out loud. Like the average person has internal chatter at 4,000 words a minute. If our thoughts burned calories, we'd all be supermodels. And it's because, you know, we tend to think that the thoughts are true. Just because a thought pops up doesn't mean you need to give it a microphone. Like, think about junk mail, right? Everybody gets junk mail. You don't open every piece of junk mail. You don't apply to every credit card application and clip every coupon. It's ridiculous. You didn't order it. You didn't ask for it. You don't have to open it. Well, your thoughts are, most of them are junk mail. 80% of them are negative. 95% of them are repetitive. And if you don't push back on those thoughts that say, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, why is this happening, woe is me, if you're not intentionally about shifting that narrative, that story, that's what drives your biology. Your beliefs drive your biology. So if your thought process is, and I'll give you an example. What happens is we have this negative story, like I can't do it, or it's not fair, or this is too hard, and we live in this toxically positive culture where it's like, no, you need positive affirmations and you have to think positively. Well, your brain can't go from I can't do it to I can do everything. Your brain can't make that leap. So while affirmations are wonderful, your brain is more likely to believe you if you go from negative to neutral. I can figure
Mm,
this out. It is what it is. One day at a time, one step at a time. So you're not lying to yourself and going, "This is awesome." When I was raising Evan, well, I'm still raising Evan, but I spent a lot of time, and my story, my narrative was, it's not fair. It's not fair
mm,
my friends have healthy kids. It's not fair my kid can't be in a normal classroom. It's not fair I got a tumor in my salivary gland and my face is paralyzed. It's not fair that all this stuff is happening
mm,
to me. True, but not helpful. So, what is the story you're telling yourself about your life? And how do you go from negative to neutral? Mine became, it is what it is. I'll figure it out. You got this, one day at a time, one foot in front of the
mhm,
other. Like, I have those on sticky notes all over my house because you have to retrain your story and your narrative. It's just a habit. So
mhm.
it's everything. That story you are telling yourself is creating your biological response. You have to be deliberate about what you say to yourself and what you listen to. And because whatever you repeat, you reinforce. And so every time you're thinking to yourself, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, they think I'm stupid, you're reinforcing that that's the truth.
Yeah,
You have to use your mind to change your brain because your brain only cares about one thing: keeping you alive. It doesn't care about
right.
keeping you happy or making you feel good. It's keeping you alive. So you have to let your brain know, I'm safe. This isn't helpful. Let's figure out what we do next. And
Yeah,
that's the foundation.
I love that. I want to ask you another question. If you could teach every person one skill that would help them navigate the next decade of uncertainty, what would it be?
Adaptability.
Mm,
Because by the year 2030, 40% of the skills that we use now are going to be obsolete.
mhm,
So, whether it's new technology or a different structure for your team or your family dynamic is shifting, what determines your resilience is whether or not you can adapt intentionally.
mhm. I think that we all have it innately in us, the ability to change, the ability to go a new direction. One of the things I think of is when all of us were coming up through school and go from grade school to intermediate middle school to high school, those were just scary times. I remember when I moved to high school, it was terrifying. It was
Yep.
terrifying to move up a level, but then we adapted and it was the most fun I've ever had. And I went to college, same thing. And then we have all these steps,
Yep.
but you just have to be ready to make the changes. And
But
that,
here's the thing, though, and I
talk
don't
to
mean to
me.
interrupt you, but
No, please do.
so here's the thing: by the time we're adults, we don't want to be uncomfortable anymore. We
Right.
don't want another first day of school. We don't
Right.
want another, like, I feel insecure and awkward and uncomfortable. We make it through all of that and go, finally. I get to be comfortable. The problem is comfort becomes a cage and
Mhm.
we shrink instead of grow. And
Mhm.
it's okay to want to be comfortable for a while. You don't have to constantly put yourself in discomfort. But when you've been comfortable for a while, then it's time to stretch again and put yourself in a new situation. And if that doesn't look like a new job or a new thing, maybe it looks like a new hobby or trying something, trying a new recipe or brushing your teeth with your non dominant hand or sleeping on a different side of the bed, right? These are all just little ways to continue to exercise that muscle to prove to yourself that you're capable.
I laugh because my wife is the master of this. She took me to a movie I hated today. She always is changing up the spots that she sleeps. She's like, "I'm gonna sleep down here today. I'm gonna use this pillow." I'm like, "That's my pillow. That's my blanket. That's my spot." And she's like, "But I want it today. Today we're gonna go to lunch here, but we have things we've got to do. We're gonna go." Okay, we're gonna go, and then we go.
Your
Last
wife
year,
sounds cool.
she's rad. She's a superstar, amazing singer, and she's done all of her stuff by just being out of the box and being willing to like say, you know what, today I'm going to try something new, and that's a beautiful gift, and I admire her for it. Forever and
But
always
it's
admire that.
also a skill to build adaptability. Try
Yeah.
new things that are out of the norm. Order a different dish at your favorite restaurant. Like these are little tiny micro shifts, but what your wife has done is created a life that
Hmm.
is more flexible and not as rigid and more open because she's been open to trying things differently. And
Yep.
that's really what this journey is about. You only get one chance. And the older I get, the more I realize how non-infinite, how precious it is. I've started losing people. I'm 51 and I've started
Yeah.
losing people that I love. And
Hmm.
when you're young, you feel invincible.
Yeah.
Like there's no time limit. You can just do anything and everything. And the older you get, the more you
Right.
realize this is limited. And even if the time isn't limited, your health may be, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we're going camping this weekend. And, when you think about like, do the things I hear so many people saying, when I retire, that's when I'll go do all the fun things.
Yeah.
You
Right.
have to infuse the fun things while you're doing it because you might
Hmm.
wait for 10 years and then you're physically not capable of doing those things. And so you don't have to wait until a certain point to be happy. You have to infuse happy along the way in small
Hmm.
micro moments. Don't wait for some end date once this project is over, once the kids graduate, once I retire. If you're not happy where you are, you will not be happy where you're going.
Right.
You have to find, I hear people say, well, I want to be a doctor. Okay, well, do you enjoy medical school? Do you
Mm.
enjoy that kind of intense schedule? No, no, no,
Hmm.
I don't. I just want to be a doctor. Then you're not doing it for the right reasons. You have to be okay with the journey. Because if
Hmm.
you are like, I'll be fine in 8 years when I'm done with medical school, that's a long time to be unhappy.
It's a super long time. I want to know, where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Well, you can go to evolvability.com and you'll get a free evolvability index. You can find out how adaptable you are. You can follow me on social channels at Ann Grady Group. But yeah, that's a great place to start.